particularly with, I think, everyone in the Americas region who currently has points outside of Pascoa is currently 3-3 or worse in standings. So it's like we keep talking about how wide open the Americans race is, but they keep pushing it to new levels. It just doesn't seem like anyone can really put together those consistent performances in the Americas region, and it just means that anyone who can put together one big spike in a Masters Tour is going to just stroll straight into America's GM, and that could very well be Impact just picking up that re-promotion.
That's right, Saddle. It's too evenly matched in the Americas. It's just so competitive.
Yes, that is the pro-Americas spin to put on what I just said. You are absolutely right.
All right, well, we'll let the cards do the talking. We'll see. Impact does keep Mancrick. Very nice proactive play from Jay's side. I'm thinking if there's any merit to keeping anything besides the parade leader. Does end up holding on to the Ringmaster Watley just to get those resources going. We've talked a lot about that warrior versus rogue dynamic, and this shouldn't be all too different, especially with standard lists. As Jay even finds the Imprisoned Gnarg on 1, that's a great start for a USA player.
It certainly is. Impact is going to rip out the Foxy Fraud and Vanessa here, holding back on the Efficient Octobot. Doesn't really have a hand that benefits significantly from those discounts right now. So I do that like this, allows Impact to play quite heavily for tempo on his own right, which I think is absolutely the way to do this for Rogue. If you win this matchup as Rogue, you generally do so by going very quickly, by winning board early, by pushing damage early, and then finishing with wicked stabs over the top. If you allow things to just progress through to the mid game, generally the Rush Warrior is going to bully you off the board quite effectively.
Yeah, that's right. And now we get some tempo battles here. Jay sees the aggressive Foxy Fraud and Vanessa Van Cleef. The board is already starting to expand to a point where without Blade Master Samurai is going to be a little bit trickier to get everything controlled in one fell swoop. And Impact really hoping that he can get value off of this Octobot. But that extra buff from the conditioning ends up being key here for Jay. It's really great foresight from him to be able to shut down the Octobot, and I think Impact's already in trouble.
I think you're absolutely right. I would struggle to imagine a way out from this position. There is Mancrick here to come down, but then from this point, Secret Passage may be into exactly Kazakus on the following turn, but he's already falling so far behind. Game's been played at a rapid pace here, which is hard to keep up with, but I love the decision from Jay earlier on, just to drop a rank 1 conditioning, just for the +1/+1 buff to the hand. I think if there is a mistake I've seen Rush Warrior players have in this matchup, is that they played a little bit too greedy and a little bit too slowly, and they've kind of done the standard Rush Warrior thing of, you know, you coin out your Watley, you get the big hand, you drop the +2/+2 buff from the rank 2 conditioning on everything else. You don't need to do that against Rogue. Just don't fall behind early and your deck will take care of itself, and I think Jay has recognized that dynamic of the matchup very nicely with the opening hand that he had.
I mean, this is looking real tough. Impact goes for a Secret Passage, does not find anything to address the board state outside of the Wicked Stab currently, and has to stabilize by killing off at least this Rakara to start things off. Finds Brain Freeze, which is a nice step. Jay with a preemptive, well played, recognizing that Impact's in a terrible spot. Oh, and the emotes on Impact, the player who also is, you know, has a reputation of not being afraid to emote his opponents as well. Perhaps a little bit of poetic justice if you are a person that takes those emotes as competitive trash talk equivalents. I mean, Jay just pretty much rushing through his turn, as right now there's not too much to think about. Playing the big stuff on 5 and just pressuring Impact's life total. Impact has to go to the drawing board. Brain Freeze start things off, but I can't imagine that there's too many ways to stabilize from here without dying.
Give me that.
Prize Plunderer is definitely chief amongst them, though. Oh. Second Shadow Step picked up now. That is going to be the board clear for Impact on this turn. So he does have an entire 4 health to play with now for the rest of this game.
Okay. Now, as much as I like some friendly ribbing back and forth, I think it would also be equally hilarious here if Impact found a way to turn this game around and win despite Jay's back-to-back double emote.
Yes. Yeah, the first one, the well played, I think that was straight up BM. The second one, that was an error. I think there was literally an error. I believe Impact threw a Wicked Stab at a 5 attack minion and then hit a 7 attack minion with his face, which obviously the other way around makes more sense in that position. But yes, obviously it would be a little bit of egg on Jay's face if he were to let this fantastic position slip. But I think he's still quite some way away from letting that happen. He's still in a very comfortable position here.
And it does even have the Sword Eater to pressure the life total and set up 2-turn lethal. However, it's not guaranteed. Impact does have ways to potentially stop it in the form of Jandice, but it's only really Jandice there. Taking some time to evaluate how he wants to go about this, considering that he probably wants to just deal with the field contact as well, but can't really do that and swing with the weapon.
I like this. This was my #1 plan here. Originally, I was going to go with like bumper car and the weapon and just swing face. As you said, set up that 2-turn lethal. It's very hard to resist. But I think Jay recognizes that the only thing that really stops him is Jandice into big taunts. So actually just hand buffing, right, and making sure those rush minions in his hand get as big as possible is the best play to play around the 1 outer from Impact, because now suddenly if Earth Elemental and another taunt comes down, he now has those big rush minions to plow through the Earth Elemental guaranteed, and he can go face with the weapons. So I think Jay did very nicely there in the end to set up his outs. But you'd better do, right? Like you said, he was taking his time on that turn. After you throw out the emotes on your opponent while they're roping because you're so confident that you've won, you better take your time and get that play right, because if you don't, you are going to look like a fool.
That's right. And, I think Jay just likes to talk big. If you get to know him a little bit more, he's actually even, I think, in the past month became a partner on Twitch and has been, really trying to put his name out there as a competitive player. He's been getting rank 1 a lot with, particularly OTK Demon Hunters, where I know him from. And so he does have a lot of those bearings where it feels a little bit like he's got some amnesiac energy, kind of a young gun. Not afraid to just kind of call out his opponents, not afraid to say that it was too easy for him, even if it was fairly tricky and difficult. And I appreciate that because, it's extra funny too, because Impact kind of came into Grandmasters promising that. He sent me a lot of DMs like, I don't mind being the villain here. I can heal it up. I don't mind a little trash talk back and forth. But, actions speak louder than words sometimes. And I think that Jay does live up to that. And here we go. His pet deck, the OTK Demon Hunter, that he's known for, notorious on ladder.
Dan, who are you talking to? You don't need to explain to me the power of a heal when it comes to entertainment. Come on. OTK Demon Hunter now coming out from Jay, as you mentioned. It's been a deck that we've been seeing ride the roller coaster so far. Really enjoyed watching the last series with Diz Demon playing Demon Hunter. There was a couple of spots where I think once he was rewarded and once he wasn't, for taking very big risks in terms of, I might die this turn. I could play around dying and use some healing, use up a key combo piece, but instead I'm going to take the risk of dying to put myself in a better position. And like I said, he had a 50% success rate with that paying off. But that's very akin to the way that I end up playing the deck a lot of the time. So I really enjoyed watching Diz Demon play and really vibed with the way that he was playing the deck. So looking forward to seeing what Jay is going to come up with here. But one thing he has come up with is an insatiable Fellhound, Dan, in his deck. 2 of them, in fact,
That's
which
right.
is extremely unusual to be seeing in OTK Demon Hunter, which I believe is the 2/5 taunt that gains lifesteal when you corrupt it, right? I think that's the right card. It's such an obscure tech card that I'm still not 100% sure that's what the card is, but it's an interesting inclusion in there, to say the least.
Yeah, that's right. It's a 3-mana 2/5 taunt that does gain that lifesteal and +1/+1. It's also a demon, so that there is a little bit of that synergy if you need to find a way to gain life with Philosophy and Stabilize. And I like that, right? Unusual tech stuff. Some people are putting Acidic Swamp Ooze. Some people put Mancrick in their OTK Demon Hunter. I think I like the Insatiable Fellhound. at least the core concept and the idea. Would love to see Jay show off why exactly he has put that in his deck list, because certainly he's trying to have influence on certain matchups. This could be one of them. Token Druid does get off to a quick start and has the ability to explode onto the board, or it can just set up these big waves and give the OTK Demon Hunter some trouble. But that being said, if you're able to play very clean and be rewarded the way this Demon was in the previous series, you can see that even if the data does look like it's Token Druid favored, there's a lot of things that the OTK Demon Hunter has agency in this matchup.
Yes, I think it's a very difficult matchup to play, even between two decks that kind of have a reputation for being very, very solitaire focused and not really caring too much about what the opponent is doing. They just kind of play their own game and develop their own game plan. But I think despite that, when they go head to head, like that almost cancels each other out and reverses the polarity, and they both have to think incredibly hard about what the other deck on the other side is capable of. Really engineered around the specific health totals that the Druid can choose to give their minions with the different buffs that are available to them and combinations of Solar Eclipse versus the different breakpoints of AoE that are available on the other side to the Demon Hunter. So I think there's a lot of really crucial moments that you'll see here go back and forth, amplified even more by the fact that sometimes Demon Hunter can just win this matchup on board. They don't necessarily even have to go for the OTK in certain panouts.
Wow. I mean, the opening hands look potentially very spicy here. Jay having the Skull Gul'dan already in the outcast position. Impact whiffing on Guest Away. It does seem like that's happening a fair amount when I'm casting, at least. Not entirely sure what's exactly happening over there. It's just unfortunate, I guess, from Impact's perspective.
It's a great pickup with the Kurt Russell for Jay. One of the premium cards in this matchup for sure. Just allows you to dominate board very, very easily. Even without Outcast a lot of the time, you can play it down, kill 2 tokens. This exact situation you're looking at here, for example, it can just come down and value trade twice very nicely, which may well be the play.
Oh, so
unless there is space for Coin Skull. There is, I apologize.
Yes, so the ability to go for the Skull of Gul'dan for 4 mana. This is absurdly strong to be able to get such powerful discounts. More card draw. The Spectre Sights are now to 0 mana apiece.
Yeah, the triple Spectral Sight hand, not really ideal against Token Druid. I think it's around this point in the game where you probably do want to be doing something to affect the board rather than keep drawing cards. But 0 mana Immolation Aura to go along with the Spectral Sights, I think makes that a fantastic skull overall for Jay. Particularly because it happened on turn 3, which is hard to argue with a lot of the time.
Coconut comes into the hand a little bit early, and Jay doesn't have the ability to really draw too many cards because his hand is full at 10. Does think about this Kurt Russ Ashfallen as an opportunity to answer the board a little bit on curve. I think in his mind he would prefer to stay with Immolation Aura as long as he reasonably can. He's going to go with the Fellscream Blast instead. I like it. Optimization for health. He is going to burst up with his lifesteal.
Yeah, if that's all the remaining 1 mana is going to be used on, it's a nice little catch just to deal that 1 damage to the taunt because it's essentially free in that spot, as you said, getting the full heal back. Impact does take both. Interesting that he wanted a Runic Carvings there. He does have Glowflight in hand, so it might just be not necessarily that he wants both of the spells, just that he wants to fill his hand up with as many spells as possible.
Yeah, I think that makes sense here. Like, the idea is that Glowflight form is his reload, and he's willing to take it. There's not too many bad outcomes of that guidance as well, and he ends up finding more ways to get those resources. But Jay's not going to slow down. He's going to use the Spectral Sight, set up the Ojaki Warblades, and now, while Impact does have this Glowfly Swarm, I mean, Jay does have an answer to it. Does he need to use the Immolation Aura? Can he use other resources instead? The Kurus Ashfallen is in this outcast position and has a weapon swing, so he doesn't entirely have to commit to an AoE clear here.
Yeah, he can drop an I-Beam with that as well if he really needs to, but I suspect he will feel with the quality of hand that he has right now, yeah, with this many philosophies, now the Moab come into hand as well, 2 spectral sights that can be moved over to the left-hand side for 0. I think it would be tempting to just dump the majority of the hand here. Like, he might even find himself using Kurtrus and the Immolation Aura this turn just to get them both out of the hand and really start ripping spectral sights to find that lethal for the Il'gynar.
Yeah, it's a good point. You know, with so much combo pieces already and damage in the hand from Jay already, he probably can start thinking about how he can kill Impact as soon as, you know, next turn or two. I don't mind it. Gonna start investing his mana early.
You know, tempo instead and just drop a Moab. Yeah, okay, sure, I can see this as well. As I was saying, this is a matchup where you can fight for board very aggressively. If you are the Demon Hunter. Obviously, doing that with Kurtrus is very similar. You just be playing a 3-4 here for minimal value, even though it doesn't clear much of the board with the Immolation Aura. You still get a minion down into play. But I think, you know, Jay here just choosing to respect how good of a resource the Kurtrus is for extending the game and continuing to clear boards, just plays for a little bit of tempo with the Moog instead, which I'm totally fine with.
Impact, I'm sweating a little bit more. Just off the board already. My opponent's drawn crazy amount of cards. I mean, both players have drawn a lot of cards. Hey, Jay finds the Philosophy Blast. Is that lethal?
The Moog lived, yeah. So he has +1 spell damage, double to 4, double to 8, 24. Yeah, he should have it, I think, right?
Is there a mana issue with that?
Oh, there is. Sorry, yeah, I had 1 too much mana. Yes, I was spending 8. You are absolutely correct.
For my discretion.
Okay, so going to just use Spectral Sight. Should still be able to get there anyways on the following turn. Safety first. Well, does this complicate anything? Does Jay want to utilize the Philosophy again preemptively here? Gonna use a second Fellscream Blast. Okay.
Yeah, again, it just goes back to that point again, right? Like, you don't have to get tunneled on the idea, even though he's so close. You know, we can say he needs 1 more mana to win the game, which he did that turn, but he used the Ethereal Org Merchant, which was part of that combo that he needed to win the game. So he's probably still a couple of turns away from necessarily setting up an OTK. But also, just look how far ahead he is on board right now. The Token Druid just doesn't really have anything to react to this most of the time. You see Impact, I think, having to make a real panic play here, probably with Runic Carvings coming down for Rush to get 7 rushing 2/2s just to clear up this board.
That ain't bad.
Pretty good.
Use Mark of the Spike Shell. And all of a sudden, Jay has to deal with a pretty sizable board once more. Impact does have reload available with the Fungal Fortunes and Lightning Bloom Innervate to catch up on some of the mana that he's overloaded on. And now Jay does not have the combo this turn. Gonna start things off with the Spectre Sight that is for free. Okay, so there is that deck card that we described before, the Insatiable Fellhound.
Yes. I think, honestly, as you were saying near the start, this might be one of the matchups that Jay is considering with that card in his deck, and I think it lends itself to the kind of board control style he's been playing, right? If he'd have been able to pick up a few extra 3-mana 2/5s, or even, you know, corrupt them into 3/6s at some point during the game, that board control style that he's been playing, it would have been even more effective up until this point. So I think he's played the matchup in a very interesting way up until this point, but I think everything that he's done has made a lot of sense with the way the deck is put together.
There's an opportunity to play the Fell Screamer, which would corrupt the Fellhound, and an opportunity to play that as well. But does he need that discount on the Moarg instead? Something that Jay's calculating. He's thinking about the Philosophy, the 2 Eye-Beams. Is there an opportunity to make it happen? And Jay says, I'm just going to start prepping the combo. And the Fellhound does end up coming down. Okay, I wasn't sure if he was, because he played it pretty quickly when the rope was burning down, if he was going to leave up the board state the way it is. And now Impact's just going to draw cards and see if he can really find a way to make this one window of opportunity. It could be the last chance that he has to make something happen and win this game.
Solar gives him so many options now as to whether he wants to use that for buff, whether he wants to use that for resources with nature studies or guidance even. Like, the Solar is probably his last big window back into this game, and where he chooses to use it is going to have a big impact on his win-loss rate this game, because Jay is really deep on the board control line now, even spending his Fell Screamer discount on the taunt, as you said. So yeah, it looks like Impact is going to go all in with this Solar Eclipse. As I said, just using it for maximum buff, maximum board presence, try and get himself a foothold on the board, because this is just a response to the way Jay's played the matchup, right? Which is to try and win on board.
I mean, it's a big board.
Mm-hmm. Double jump.
23 damage showing. Double jump does find Skull. The last few cards in Jay's deck. NB drawn finds a second Immolation Aura. Huge pickup here for Jay.
Insane. Yeah, final board nuke, and now Corrupted Insatiable Fellhound number 2 coming down, and that 3/6 might just lock it out, because I don't think this Gibberling is even going to get there unless this Nature Studies or this Guidance can hand over something premium. Okay, Bog Beam's a start. Oh, finds the Arbor up now as well. Can he find, like, Innovates and Lightning Blooms to allow him to do more of this?
Lunar Eclipse doesn't clear up the Fellhound.
Yes, it does. Already a pretty insane turn, right?
I mean, this is as good as it gets for Impact. This is probably the best series of draws that he could have asked for, given the situation. Full board. Threatening lethal once more.
Not many cards left.
However, over on Jay's side, does have discounted Talented Arcanist, but he is down to I-Beams as his cards to actually deal the damage with here. It's a bit of a raw deal.
Yeah, and the I-Beams are costing 1, which means he can't play the full works of the Il'gynoth, Moarg, Aldraki Warblades, and the double I-Beam with the Arcanist.
Yep.
Where's the final card in Jay's deck?
Unsure. Been thrown for a loop by this deck list. I'm usually pretty good with the standard OTK Demon Hunter, even without the deck tracker, but this has double Fell Screamer in it, and it also has the 2 Insatiable Fellhounds, so it's kind of thrown me for a loop as to which cards have been used or not.
Maybe Jay's best hope is that Impact doesn't have the finishing blow. He has 23 showing, 15 through 3 attacks, 8 through the 2 Treants.
Yep.
Maybe in his mind, just try your best and hope that Impact does not have it. That's what the Guidance that's in Impact's hand could end up becoming huge. Jay ends up using an I-Beam.
Whoa! Fungal Fortunes off the top. There is 16 damage showing currently. Impact is going to lead out with the Guidance.
Whoa.
Takes both Pride's Fury and Power of the Wild. Oh my goodness, that is 3, 6, 9, 12, 16 plus 5 twice, 26, 27 with the hero power. That would be lethal if not for mana constraints right now with the Adorable Infestation offering the 1 extra damage. Oh, he's so close.
Also a nod to Jay, removing that 1 minion ends up making a huge difference to stay alive.
Yep.
I wonder.
I don't know if he was incidentally playing around Guidance into Power of the Wild and Pride's Fury, but ends up covering his bases, and now Impact is very close to pulling off yet another upset from the Token Druid to just pull out a huge comeback. Just has to fade this one last turn. Jay, see that both these cards were created off of Guidance. Osnada, well played. How much damage is this?
Oh, last card is a Moarg. Okay, in which case he had this set up with the I-Beam and the Weapon Swing. This was a great 2-turn setup. I was wondering what the plan was exactly for Jay, but having lost track of what the last card was, it suddenly makes a ton of sense. If it was Moarg Artificer, he had the setup very, very cleanly, knowing that he had the exact 26, I believe, total to go face on that turn. How that could have then got interesting is if the Guidance hadn't have found found buffs specifically for impact. It had found Feral Rage or Moon Touched Amulet or Cenarian Ward, right, in that position to actually play defensively as opposed to offensively in that spot for impact, because then suddenly impact might have been in a position where he could fatigue Jay instead of actually trying to win the game aggressively, which would have been very interesting.
That's right. I mean, Jay's showing you why he is an OTK Demon Hunter to be feared on ladder. This is his pet deck and showed off extreme proficiency. And I mean, it doesn't get any more satisfying if you are a fan of technical play Hearthstone to watch Jay play the game the way he did. It was exactly the narrowest of margins that he had to do. He drew his 30th card, which was mapped out perfectly, even accounted for a couple of ranges that Impact could have cheesed him with and was one off. So, I mean, in terms of satisfaction level, I am thoroughly satiated. Subtle after that game from Jay. Really well done and well earned, and improves to a 5-1 record after 6 rounds of play. Just well done overall.
If you are satiated, then you are trying to say that you are